Today's interview is with Agostino Pintus. Today, Agostino talks about taking down the Rockefeller Center in Cleveland, Ohio. So they bought the Rockefeller Center in Cleveland, Ohio, which is very fascinating. They bought it for $13 million and they're going to spend $87 million on renovations. Think about that for a second. So if you want to hear about how he did this, how maybe you could do this, amongst the host of other stuff, stay tuned for today's episode. I think it's really interesting. And as always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the YouTube channel. Go to the WWRE podcast and give me a 5-star rating and write me a great review if you think it's worthy. And I'm looking to speak to as many of you as possible. I love talking about real estate. I love to hear about people's lives and what they're up to and what they're trying to achieve, and see if there's any way whatsoever I can help them. So if you're interested in getting on a phone call with me, there's a link in the description below, or you can go to wrestlingwithrealestate.com. So stay tuned for today's great episode with Agostino Pintus, and he talks about taking down the Rockefeller Center.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barry Griffiths. Today we have Agostino Pintus with us. Hey, Agostino, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. You're dressed nice and sharp as well. I feel like I'm letting us down here. I should have dressed a little bit better today, but I'm excited to get into today's conversation. It's going to be a real fun one. I can already tell. I'm excited. But before we do that, I like to ask some fun questions to the guests to start off with. Just a bit of fun at the start. So what is your favorite color?
You know, my favorite color is green, and it's obvious why, right?
If you could visit any planet, which one would it be?
I'd say Mars because I'm red and hot.
Okay. I like that. If you could be any other person for the day, who would it be?
I would say, I would say John D. Rockefeller.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite meal?
You know what? Simple pizza. I mean, that's it. But I don't get enough of it, right?
You get along well with my wife. Every night she's like, "Can we have pizza tonight? Isn't that
Right.
pizza night?" What do you mean tonight? Last night was pizza night. She's like, "Yeah, every day should be pizza day." I'm like, "No, let's try and eat healthy." Cool. Well, thank you for having a bit of fun with us. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about you, about your background, and what your current focus is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background has been primarily technology, right? So I was one of those kids that started writing code when I was like 9 years old, 10 years old, right? And one of the things that I always wanted to be when I was a kid was I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I learned, and I thought computers were going to be it. So I tried to learn everything I could. So back then, it was a long time ago, it was all like everything was in books. There was no YouTube, no internet. So you kind of have to learn the ropes from school, from books, from magazines, that kind of thing. I figured technology was going to be it for me. And of course, my parents, they were always quick to say, "Oh no, you don't want to be an entrepreneur. You need to go get a job. That's what you need. Stop being the entrepreneur. You don't need that in your life," right? So instead of going the entrepreneur route of starting my own company and doing all that, which I did actually start my own little software company at 13, but I didn't go anywhere. Yeah. I decided to go to corporate America, and that's exactly what I did. I became an first IT director, then eventually becoming a CIO, like running large enterprise IT for a publicly traded company. But no matter what, Barry, I was always living in fear. Always. I was always living in fear. Even though I was a big time CIO, plenty of money, had the cars, the big house, all that stuff. I was always afraid of getting fired all the time, right? And I think part of it is because my parents were, they were immigrants. They didn't have a lot of money growing up. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So it was kind of a thing like that fear was instilled from a very young age. And it's funny how you're able to once you put something in your head, it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's exactly what happened. I eventually get canned. They hand me the box, pack up your stuff, get lost, you're done. Now, when I started, this is about 16, 17 years ago, but I started doing real estate back then. I started doing like single families and small multifamily, you know, so I already knew enough to get into that space, but just before before I got canned from that company. But unfortunately, it kicked off what I call the 10 dark years, right? Where I kind of lost my focus. I lost my drive. I lost a lot of ambition, and I just started floating through life, man. That's ultimately what can kill you, is that when you don't have a purpose, when you don't know what to do, you kind of like just live from day to day to day and just kind of like go with the flow type scenario. And when you live without focus and you live without a purpose, it really causes a lot of bad stuff to happen in your life. And that's what happened for me for like almost 10 years. And it wasn't until I landed at a decent company, and only to get canned again 10 years later. Same thing. I'm now in my mid 40s. Same thing happens again. Only this time I decided to shift my whole thinking. I'd done some personal development. I've devoted my time to studying great authors and really understanding mindset building. And when I did that, I decided, you know what? Here I am at 45 years old. I'm not going to do IT anymore. I'm not doing it. I refuse to do this stuff. How many more times do I need to get fired from a job before I realize that's not going to work out for me? Like, am I going to be like 55 years old, putting the fate of my family, my kid, my whole family in the hands of some stranger that doesn't give a care about me, right? Because that's exactly what you're doing when you're working a 40-hour job, right? It's the same thing. So I ended up going into real estate, you know, and I knew that my real estate portfolio, at that point, I'd sold off a lot of it because I needed the money over those 10 dark years. But I knew that whatever I had left was throwing off money. Every month, the money showed up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go all in on real estate. And I walked away from a 20-year career as a C-level executive just to do real estate. And I'll tell you, man, there has never, ever, ever been a single day that I wake up today and I say, oh, damn it, I wish I was working in corporate America. That has never happened, and it won't, because I'm never going back there ever again, man. It's crazy. It really is. It's a very different way of living. I'm not going to say that every day is sunshine and lollipops and, you know, every single day, but I'll tell you, man, I'll take a bad day in real estate over a good day in corporate any day of the week, you know? So yeah, it's been phenomenal journey so far. Yeah.
That's such a great story. I love that story. But you know, it's amazing. So many, I'm lucky to interview a lot of successful entrepreneurs, real estate investors. And it's amazing how often the same story comes up, right? They had that entrepreneurial spirit, but by friends, family, whoever it was, they were pushed into corporate America. Go get a degree, go get a W-2 job, work for the man, be a good employee, and you'll be fine, right? But it's amazing how often they come out of that, right? And they have that battle, right? I'm sure like you had, you know, you worked hard at your job, you worked hard to get to that job, and, you know, you had your friends and family pushing you into that job and wanting to be there. But then you found real estate, right? Something that you were passionate about, something like you love. And like you said, a bad day in real estate is better than the best day in the W-2 job. And it's amazing how often that story repeats itself. It's absolutely mind blowing, because I think, unfortunately, you know, that's the general consensus, right? You just get a job, you go to college, get a good degree, and then you go to work for the next 40 years, right? So you can enjoy 15 or 20 years of retirement, right? When you're, you know, at that age already, you know what I mean? It's crazy how, you know, you hear all the time, but it's crazy how true it is. And it's amazing to hear another person that, you know, has had that experience. Maybe talk a little bit about how hard was it leaving that? I know, you know, it must have sucked to get fired twice, and, you know, I'm sure that was a driving force. But how hard was it leaving those 20 years and everything that you built into that point to just leave it behind you and go into real estate investing?
Well, first of all, I wasn't just fired twice, man. I was fired from just about every job I ever had. I'm a very bad employee. So I'll tell you that right now, man. I mean, just about every job I've ever had. I was thinking about that. I'm like, God, man, I've been fired from almost every single job. Holy crap. I'm a damn good entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But an employee, not so much. But it's just what I said, my parents, they're great people. They really, really are. They, but they're immigrants. They came over into Canada where I was born and raised, and they're trying to find a better life from Italy. Right. Mm-hmm. And the whole concept of the 40-hour work week, which I would ask anybody who's listening right now, research that. You'll discover that it's a fairly new phenomenon. I mean, Ford brought it up with the unions, like not that long ago, right? We're talking less than 100 years ago. This whole concept of the 40-hour work week is fairly new, and it's global now, right? And it's a bunch of nonsense where you have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours to spend with your family. Do whatever it is you please. It was all devised by the union and by corporate, so. But again, my parents had no idea how that worked. They just knew that you need to go to work and get a check and repeat until you, just like you said, you get old enough, you retire and you die. This is life. It's already prepackaged for you and you don't have to worry about it. And the reason why I'm harping on this is because when that is instilled in your brain, it's really hard to shake it. And I'll tell you what, man, it was hard to shake. When I first tried to do something in my 20s, it was, and I got fired from a job then too. It's kind of like you feel like you're absolutely worthless. That is the sensation that you feel is worthlessness, right? It's kind of like as soon as they hand you your pink slip, you get a punch in the gut, and then you feel like you're garbage, right? And I think it's been said too that for many people that get fired from their job, they often feel it's worse than a divorce in some cases, worse than a breakup, right? And that shaking that feeling is very, very tough to do. It's very tough to do. And I think that the many, many times that kept on happening, and because I said, I've been fired from a lot of jobs, man. Up until the very last time I left, I had a consulting gig that I left, right? I mean, that day I handed out high fives. I was like, I'm never doing this again. Because I set it up in my mind that I was never going to do this anymore. And I think that was a clear delineation, is that up until that point, I was letting other people dictate and govern what my life was going to be. And when that sudden expectation is now removed, that's why you feel bad about it. However, if you plan to do something and you work towards that goal, and then when either they cut you loose or you cut yourself loose from them, it's a non-event. You're kind of like, I was expecting this. Who cares? I've already been working on the next phase of my life. It's going to actually take me somewhere, right? I think that having the preparation, being prepared for what I want to do, that's what saved me. That is a clear delineation. And I think for most people that get caught in the same boat, maybe someone listening to this right now, maybe they just got canned from a job that sucked anyway. But it's like, if you had set up a plan of what happens, not a backup plan. What is your plan for your life? Like, what are you going to do with the limited amount of time you have on this planet, and work towards it? I mean, I think if you do that, it gives your life a higher purpose and a higher meaning. And getting released from a crappy job doesn't really matter anymore. It's a very different way of looking at things than what most people do.
Yeah, I was smiling because it's crazy how this happened. So today I've recorded some other episodes talking about mindset, right? I love the concept, the mindset aspect of things. And we actually did some specialized episodes on mindset stuff. And one was defining your values. So what are your values as a human being? What are your goals? What do you stand for? What are your morals? What do you believe in? What do you want your life to look like, right? And then secondly, after that one was authenticity. Are you being authentic to yourself and to these values, right? And it's amazing like how you talk about that. It's almost like you had your values defined, right? You knew what you wanted to be, and you had this up front before you were fired. So when you were fired, you were like, okay, cool. I can be who I'm supposed to be, right? You could be authentic to who you want to be. And it's just crazy how what you're saying lines up with what I did earlier. It's amazing. But I think that's so important for people to maybe consider, right? I'm not advocating that anyone leaves their job, right? Because we all have bills to pay, homes, mortgages to pay, and families to feed and everything like that. But sometimes you need to ask yourself, what are my defining values, right? What is important to me? What does my life look like? What do I want my life to look like? And then am I being authentic to that? And as you talked about before, you're doing the corporate America thing more for your family, right? Almost than for yourself. And you weren't necessarily being authentic. And there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't like you were being a bad person. You were doing it for the love of your family. And they were doing it because they loved you and they thought that's what was best for you. But sometimes you've got to take a step back and think, am I being authentic to myself? And am I going to be able to live the best life that I want? A life without regret, right? And I think these things are so important. It's so fascinating to hear you talk about that, because I was just talking about it earlier. So that's cool.
But you know what though, Barry, I'll tell you, man, that whole concept of the 40-hour work week is I'd almost go so far as to say that it's almost like shackles and chains for everyone. It's almost like being thrown in jail, because once you get into this jail cell and they hand you your meal every 2 weeks, it's very hard to leave. Mm-hmm. And then what we do is we justify it in our own minds as to why we're there, right? And then what happens is, oh, you know what? There's always tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll do this. Tomorrow I'll work on my vision. Tomorrow I'll work on my vision board. Tomorrow I'll read that book. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow I'll do this. I'll take that course to learn something. Tomorrow. That's what happens. And you know what tomorrow's turn into? They turn into weeks, months, and years. Next thing you know, you're in a job for 50 years. Then you're totally miserable, earning well below your potential. And then what? Then maybe they hand you a box at 50 years because they can hire someone else for less money, right? Or you're all, quote, used up. You're not needed there anymore, right? That to me is probably one of the most, when I think about it, I feel bad for people that go through that and or even when you get that old, or when you become that old, what happens to you then? What happens to your future? And I think that sometimes it becomes, but at the same time too, on the other side of the coin, it's also a lack of commitment, because in order to be great, you have to be deserving of greatness. And what that means is that studying the right materials, right? Like on my podcast, for instance, I focus on sales and marketing. I focus on mindset and real estate, of course, but become so good at what you do that your competitors fear you. That is how good you have to be. I mean, and I know you're in the WWE, you know what I'm talking about. You have to be a formidable opponent to the other person. And if you're weak, they're gonna take you out. It's kind of like that. The same thing in this business. It's the same thing, man. I mean, you can't go in weak. You have to be deserving of greatness, and it takes a lot of work, a hell of a lot of work, man. It's not easy. It just isn't easy. It takes a lot of guts, and that's probably the biggest thing. Is that, I mean, I help people try to get there, but I mean, it requires a great deal of training and devotion to learning about this craft, because that's exactly what it is. It's a craft,
But the rewards are there as well,
Oh, absolutely.
You're absolutely willing to dedicate yourself to that and learn, like you said, and make yourself a formidable opponent. All the rewards you want are going to be there for you, and it's just incredible what you can achieve through real estate investing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you started real estate investing long before you kind of dove head first into it, right? What brought you to real estate investing to start off with, you think?
It's funny because it was kind of like an accident, right? So I was living in Michigan, and I had a condo, and I had to like rent it out because I took a job in Virginia. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I got a condo, I guess I'll rent it out. So suddenly I'm a landlord. I mean, it didn't occur to me because I was focused on the job, not the fact that I'm a landlord. But a friend of mine told me when I was in living in Virginia, I was at that point, I was already earning a lot of money. And this friend of mine who's also same level, but in a different department, says, you should buy real estate. And I'm like, okay, sure. Sounds like a good idea. That was the decision. That was it. That was the level of decision making that took place. I was like, well, okay, it sounds like a good idea. I mean, not because of the tax benefits, not because of, the constant cash flow. No, none of that stuff. Sounds like a good idea. Sure, why not? It's a bad idea. Like, don't do that. Know why you're doing something, right? Because I think if I would have known why I'm doing it, I probably would have better planned it. And I also would have exposed myself to different ways to finance deals, things like that. I didn't do it. I totally didn't do it right, but I did it. I got in, right? At least I took action. And, but one thing I noticed is that I'm like, man, listen, I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I can buy one house and I can buy 2 of these things, if I can get like 50 of these houses, I mean, I will never have to worry about working for this company ever again. Wow, that sounds like a great idea, right? And it's like, at the time, it seemed like a strange, it seemed like a faraway goal, because this is before 2008, and the market was. I noticed that the prices for houses were just doubling, like almost like within weeks. Back then, a house would be $50,000. The very next week, it'd be up by 10 grand, just like that, just because, it was nuts. Yeah, I mean, because I would have done it if the market was a little different back then, obviously, but yeah, man, I mean, it was kind of like on a whim. And it started off a whole chain reaction, of where we are now.
Yeah, that's incredible though, that you were just like, okay, that's like buying a pair of jeans. Okay, I'll buy those jeans. I love that though. But the great thing is, and luckily for you, I think we both agree real estate is one of the best investments you can make, right? It's without doubt one of the most powerful ones, I think. And it's great that it doesn't matter what got you there. The main thing is that you got there, and since then, obviously, you've gone from strength to strength. Were you investing around the last recession? Did you get caught up in that, or were you lucky that you kind of avoided that?
No, I think that because I got the boot just before the recession really started winding up, So I got the boot. I had some temporary jobs here and there, and then the recession hit, and I just, there's all kinds of other stuff that happened in my life at that time. Everything from just bad time with the ex-wife, that was terrible, to working in all these different places, moving around from place to place to place, because again, I had no focus. I had no drive to really succeed the way I have now, and I think that once, and I've interviewed enough people just like you have to know that there was plenty of deals back then. I mean, if you were positioned properly to take advantage of them, but at that time, I was still focused on keep my head above water, because I put myself in such a bad space. Remember what I said earlier. I've been working for this great company, this top company, and I was making great money. And then they hand me the box and tell me that you're worthless, get out. That really, and I let it. It's my fault for allowing that experience to knock me down, and I stayed down for a longer period of time than I should have. Yeah, I had some real dark moments too throughout these 10 dark years. Some of it was really bad, but you know what, man? I mean, it's one of those things that I think that if I can make it through that, and still today now, I know my purpose is. I know what it is, and I know what I need to do. Now what I'm trying to do is make up for lost time, right? We're all of our time on this planet is limited. We're not going to be here forever. And it's one thing that it's funny that many people think about as humans. We think that we have an infinite amount of time, and we don't. Our time is very, very limited, and we must maximize our time on this planet. And I'm having to do that now. I got to try to maximize it and build the legacy for my family, so they'll have something to enjoy when I'm gone, right? And that's the ultimate goal right now for me. That's what keeps me moving every day.
Thanks for, and thank you for sharing those stories, man, because it's never easy to talk about your bad times, right? It's not always the most fun things, but I appreciate you being vulnerable and open to talking about that, because it's never fun. But hopefully it might help some people, and some people they might be going through the same thing right now, right? And I think that's why we shared some of the stuff that we shared.
Yeah, but Barry, you know what though? The funny thing is that they don't have to go through all the stuff that I did. I mean, I went through it because I didn't have anybody, and I kind of have to fumble my way through. But when you allow a company, a person, someone else get in your head and tell you that you're no good, that you're not capable, you believe it, and it's not true. It's absolutely not true. So, and that's the thing. I allowed it to happen. It'll never happen again. I'm never going back to that place ever again mentally, and now I am stronger physically, mentally, emotionally than I've ever been in my entire life. And it's because it's all centered around purpose. When you clarify your purpose, and it becomes the center of your universe, everything else just falls into place, right? It doesn't matter what anybody says anymore. That purpose is what keeps you moving and excelling. That's what it is, right? That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, that's so true and so brilliant at the same time, and so simple as well. Just find that purpose. How did you find your purpose, if you don't mind me asking? Do you think?
I guess what it's unfortunately, I wish there were a formula, man. It's kind of like, again, when I got canned again from that one company as a CIO, I had to really evaluate what I was going to do with my life, and when I decided I was going to walk away from the IT job, like I mentioned before, and real estate seemed like the best thing to do, I wasn't even totally aware of deferred taxes, 1031 exchanges, opportunity zone, like all that stuff. I had no idea what any of that stuff was. All I knew was that, every month money shows up in my account. You know what? I'm just going to do that. And that's it. That was, again, not the wisest way to do it. I'm not saying everybody needs to do it this way. But I think what happened afterwards was very, very telling. Here's what I did. I got to work. Once I decided real estate was going to be it, I still had my portfolio. I had a small portfolio of real estate. I sold everything. And I was going to go all in on multifamily. Right. And that was the key, right? Is once I made that decision that I was going to kill this career and go to Michigan, sold off some properties there, went to Virginia. I had some properties there from years prior, started selling everything, right? And then I discovered that Ohio was the place for me. So I moved to Cleveland, Ohio, or Akron, and started looking at assets and started really getting to work buying the multifamily stuff, going after the multifamily business. And but between that time, it also took a high degree of commitment to study every single piece of information I can possibly find. And I studied like Sam Zell, Robert Kiyosaki, the top guys, not the gurus you see on your sponsored Facebook ads or whatever. None of those guys. I'm sure they're great guys. I wanted to learn from the masters, the people, the billionaires at the top of their game. That's who I wanted to learn from, because I decided that's what I was going to be. Right. And it required a high degree of focus, of training, 12, 15 hours a day, listening from beginning to end to audiobooks, doing the work, getting my hands on every single piece of information I can possibly find. And I think when that commitment shows up, when you make that decision and you commit to studying and training, that is how you become successful and unstoppable, right? And you become a force to be reckoned with. And I think that's the key right there, man. I mean, it's from physical training, it's like you know that when you commit to doing something, 3 sets is not going to be enough. 6 sets is not going to be enough. You need to train like for hours and hours on end in order to get the body you need to be successful in the ring, right? It's the same thing, man. Same thing, you know?
Yeah. I love that what you said. And you said it a few times that you made that decision, right? That's what the big thing is. You make that decision. It's like burning you burn the ships right behind you. You sold everything. You were going to be in multifamily because you'd made that decision. You were going to make this work no matter what, right? And you said you listened to these guys, the Sam Zells, the Kiyosaki's, because that's who you wanted to be. You identified as this people, right? You were going to be one of these people, and it didn't matter what it takes because you had that purpose, you had that drive, you had that determination because you'd made that decision. So I think that's so powerful. You've got to make that decision, whatever you're going to do, right? This is a real estate show, and we talk about real estate, but it doesn't matter what it is. Make that decision that you're going to be that, you're going to do that. Don't put one foot in, one foot out, because that's a recipe for failure, right? And also, on top of that, you know, are you going to be satisfied personally, right, with that, like with your commitment, with your dedication to something, right? If you commit to something and you're dedicated to it and you make that decision, you're never going to regret. Like you said, you haven't regretted once leaving your W-2 job, right? That commercial, that corporate America, right? You haven't regretted once. You won't regret because you'll be all in on something and you'll be so dedicated to it, and you'll have so much gratification, I think, from doing something with your complete and it's a dedication. I think that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, but I think between that and also reinforcing it as well, the reinforcement to remind you why you do it is just as important. You know, where every morning I sit down, I have my coffee, I have my cereal, and I have my book, and I write down what my goal looks like, what my vision looks like. What does my vision board look like, right? I'm actually writing it out, right? What does my vision board look like? And what does my future look like? And I'm writing it out as if it's currently happening today, right? And I know it all sounds like foo-foo nonsense. I'm telling you guys, that stuff works every single day. You got to write it out. You got to write out what does your vision look like? You know, it's, you know, I have 25,000 units producing 12% cash on cash return. I have a beautiful house on the beach overlooking the ocean. I have my cyber truck is outside waiting for me to drive it, which I pre-ordered, by the way. I mean, all these different things, you have to visualize it and you put it down on paper. And I mean, again, it sounds kooky, but here's the thing: your subconscious does not have the concept of time the way that our conscious self has it. Right? Like, we know what time it is right now. We know what day it is. We know our reality. We know what we're wearing. We know where we're currently sitting in terms of coordinates on this plane of existence. The subconscious has no idea. So if you're feeding the subconscious with certain information, the subconscious tries to find a way to make it happen. It's kind of like, was there ever a car that you wanted, and then all of a sudden you're driving around and you see that car everywhere? You never saw it before, but now it's on your mind. You see it everywhere. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, everyone, I think, right? I love that example.
Yeah, that's called the reticular activating system. That's your subconscious telling the conscious body, hey, there's that car you wanted. It's over there. I'm thinking about getting an F-150 for all the driving I got to do in and around Cleveland here, right? The winters here can be fairly brutal. So I'm looking for a 4x4 truck just for the wintertime. And I just put it in my head that, you know, I might get an F-150. Now I see them all over the freaking place. You know, that stuff works. It's amazing. And I'm telling you right now from firsthand experience, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I use to buy all the assets that we own. We just closed on the Rockefeller. We talked about that in the green room before. I mean, I visualized that. I put it on as a background on my phone. I had my phone with me. I mean, I see it every single day. And that was a hard deal to do, man. It was a tough deal. Tough characters involved, tough financing, because we did it all during this Corona thing that's going on. It was nuts. We pulled it off. We got it done. And it was not easy. But I'll tell you, it took that ambition and that drive and the reinforcement of the vision, the reinforcement of the decision is what it took to make it happen. You know, so that's absolutely critical right there.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. It's because it's so true, right? What you focus on is what what all your energy is going to go, right? You
Yeah.
focus on something, and you can focus on positive or negative stuff, but whatever you focus on, that's where your energy is going to go. So that's so true. I love that you have your goals so defined, right? It's one of the main recipes for success, I think. For people, you hear it over and over again. People know exactly what they want, so they can go after, right? If you don't know what you want, how are you going to go after it? How are you going to know what it looks like? I think that's cool. So back to the real estate a little bit, because this stuff is cool. I love this stuff a little bit more, but let's get into a little bit of more of the nuts and bolts. So you started investing in single family, right? How many single families did you buy?
Oh, wow. I didn't get that far. I didn't get as far as I wanted. I mean, I almost hit 50
wow.
like single family homes and,
really?
and stuff like that, but it never was enough. Part of the problem was back then I didn't know what I was doing. So a lot of it was based off of going to like banks for lending. I had no idea what a hard money lender was. I had no idea of private financing, owner financing, any of that stuff. I had to I had to put some in my name, some in the wife's name, some in it's because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no knowledge. I didn't commit to the knowledge. Mm-hmm. That's why, because I was still focused on my 40-hour job.
Yeah. It's funny how I had a similar goal like you to try and get to mine was 40 homes, right? But you soon realize that that's very difficult to do, because usually you only get 10, you can only get 10 loans in your name, and then 10 loans maybe in your spouse's name. And then from there, financing can be a problem. Now, there's ways to get done. You can get a commercial loan and you can do all these other kinds of financing, but it can be challenging to get that. But you did amazing to nearly get to 50. What was the point that you realized that multifamily was the way to go? How did you come to that realization?
Well, you know what, that didn't happen until years later, right? So here I am after, this is 10 years later, many years later, right? I had no idea what syndication was. I'm sitting in my car. One thing that I did early on, I'd say, when I was working at this company in Indianapolis, well before all this syndication stuff, I set up a challenge for myself, and I said that for 30 days, I'm going to send a message to one person on LinkedIn that could change my life for 30 days straight. Okay. I sent that. So a message, just someone local that I can invite out for coffee, for a drink, for dinner, anything, just to get in front of them. Okay. And out of all those 30 days, I got 2 people, right? And those 2 people are the ones that changed my life. The second guy, the first guy, he's still a friend. He's still a friend today. It's been years now, right? But the second guy, so fast forward a couple of years from the time I met him, and now I'm no longer working at that company in Indianapolis, and I got fired from it again, in my mid 40s, and I'm in Virginia. I sold off all the houses. And I'm like, I gotta figure out how I'm going to get into big deals. How am I going to do multifamily? How am I going to make it happen? So I'm sitting there in my car, and I look outside and I see a building, maybe, I don't know, like a 30 unit, nothing big. Right. And I said to my buddy here, my new friend here, and I said, hey man, how do people buy that? Who owns that? He goes, what do you mean? Who owns that? Yeah. Is it owned by a bank? Is it owned by, who owns these buildings? He goes, what do you mean people own them? I go, people? What people? He goes, yeah, they syndicate it. I go, what's that? So he explains what syndication is. And now having the experience of corporate America and how that worked, once he explained it to me, I'm like, oh, I know how that works. I worked for a publicly traded company. I got the concept fairly easily because I knew what the SEC was and all that. So I'm like, I could do that. And I mean, once he told me about how that worked, that I went all in on that. I started studying like syndication, how to put a deal together, what it means to put a deal together. What's an LP? What's a GP? How to build out who the right attorney is to use for that, because there's plenty of them out there. Some attorneys are not really good, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I learned about syndication, and that's when I knew that is how I'm going to get into these big multifamily deals. That's how I'm going to do it. Is wild, but he was one of those 2 guys that changed my life right there.
That's good.
Yeah, well before all this internet stuff. Like, I mean, there's still internet, obviously, but it wasn't like all these types of podcasts that are on right now didn't really exist back then, right? Well before all that stuff. So yeah, it was crazy.
But I love that how you came up with that, right? You're going to message one person that can change your life, not just one person that can help you, one person that you think that can change your life. And you wrote every single one of them, like all 30 people, right? Every single day. I think that's such a great idea, right? To come up with that. And that's something that all of us can do. Anyone now who's struggling or who might think, oh, I can't succeed or whatever, you have that, right? We all have phones. We all have access to the internet, right? You can definitely message 30 people, right? Or make it 60, make it 90, right? If you really, if you really want to come in and you want to go a step further. But I think it's also cool that how I had the same realization. Wait, people own these? Like we drive around, like I live in Las Vegas and there's apartment complexes everywhere, right? You just pass them and you don't think, right? Until, again, that reticular activating system, whatever you call it, right? Until you pay attention to them, you don't really, they're everywhere, but you don't notice them. But then all of a sudden, once you start realizing that people are buying these and they're investing in them, I see them every time I drive around. I'm looking at, apartment complexes and buildings and whatever, and you realize just normal people like us are buying it. Like it's not just these crazy big companies. Yeah, crazy big companies, but there's also plenty of people putting together a syndication, with a team and buying these properties. And it's like, when I found that out, that was mind blowing to me. And I was like, wait, I can do this, it was just so cool to me that to be able to buy these properties. I love that you said that you kind of went through the same realization. So what was your first, did you buy a multifamily for yourself, or did you go straight into syndication at that point?
No. So the first deal I did by myself, because remember I sold off all that stuff. So I had some money. The way I figured, if I'm going to go and raise money from other people, I wanted to demonstrate that I can find my own deal, and I'm willing to put my own skin in the game with my own money and do a deal and demonstrate how successful it could be. Right? That was the whole purpose of me doing my own deal. So I did that. But the real deal, the bigger deal was the next one I did right afterwards. And it's funny because what I'm about to say to your audience, I don't recommend doing this. It's just what I did. You all don't do that. Here's what I did. So LoopNet is the dumping ground for deals. Okay. I think that it's fairly common knowledge. And if it's not common, if it's the first time you're hearing this, listen to me. LoopNet is the dumping ground for deals. All right. It is not the place to find deals. It is a great place to find brokers, not a great place to find deals. Okay. Very rarely you may find some deal on there, but I think that many people have become somewhat lazy. You don't shop for real estate like you do on eBay. It's all built on relationship, right? So that's my little anti-LoopNet anti-LoopNet thing. But one thing LoopNet is good for too, aside from finding brokers, is practicing what I call practicing your numbers. And what I was doing, I was practicing running deals all the time. I would go to LoopNet, I'd pick a market and analyze the numbers over and over. And like if I had all the financials, I'd pull down all the financials, look at all the financials, look for reasons why a deal doesn't work, why it does work, where their expense ratio is, where the expenses are high, where they're low, what I think it could be high or low, what was the asset class, was it an ABC, was it a D? I mean, I spent a lot of time on LoopNet just looking at deals. That's it, right? So here I am, I'm on LoopNet. I had a deal up, it happened to be in Ohio, and my property manager here in Ohio anyway, the property manager also has to be a licensed broker, right? He happened to be the property manager for this deal that I had up on the screen. So I called him up and he's managing one of my properties. And I said, hey man, what's going on with this deal that you have up here on LoopNet? And he says, oh, that one just fell out of contract. It was at 1.6 million, 1.65 million. I go, well, what's their bottom line number? 1.4. So I said, send over the purchase agreement. I'm going to sign it right now. And I did. I did it sight unseen. Again, I don't recommend that. Don't do that. You know, put the money in, like I literally wired the money and then I went to go see the property, right? Again, don't do that, right? But I knew my numbers. I knew what I was doing. At least, like, you know, I ran my numbers. I knew what the price points are. I understood at that point because I was analyzing, God, at least 100 deals a week, at least, probably more than that. You know, because again, I had a passion for this stuff because I knew that I had to do this, right? And I went to go see the property. The property looked good. I got a good understanding of the area. And, but I realized that after I put a purchase agreement on this thing, I don't have $1.5 million. All right. I don't have the earnest money. I mean, I had the earnest money, but I didn't have like the down payment to, you know, I didn't have my lender really solidified. I had a lender, but I didn't really work with that lender before. I mean, I didn't have my team like totally gelled yet, but trial by fire. Incidentally though, to get that deal financed, you know how many phone calls I had to make?
No idea.
Two phone calls. That's it. I closed it. I raised all the money I needed. 2 phone calls.
Wow. What do you attest that to? Friendships, networking?
Yeah, just networking. The first lady told me no and hung up on me. The second one, though, the first one was a very, very short phone call. The second one, though, I told her enough about the property. I sold her on the asset. I sold her on my ability to maintain and run the asset, and it's been performing ever since. And I was right. There's the one deal that's on LoopNet that I actually bought, but I mean, we got a significant discount from it. But you see that it's you know, it took some work, but it's a trial by fire, you know. But I was scared at first. I'll tell you that right now. It was not a fun time. For me, it was kind of like, oh my God, I just committed to a $1.5 million or 1.4 whatever some change $1 million purchase. Now it's like those deals are so small I wouldn't even look at them anymore. but it's funny. It's funny how you grow into these things, right? It really is. But you got to take that first step and really push yourself, right? That's the tough part. You know, you really got to push yourself.
Yeah, and I think I hear it a lot as well. Is that just take the action and figure it out later, right? I've heard that a lot about people. Yeah. They don't necessarily say like that, but that's what they did, right? They did like you did. They took down a deal and then they're like, oh, how do I figure this out? What do I do now, right? how do I make this happen, right? And I think there's an attitude with successful people that they're gonna find a way to make it happen no matter what, right? And,
yeah.
You know, it's not the ideal way to do stuff, but at the same time, you know, when you have that attitude that no matter what, you're gonna make it happen, you're gonna win, which is really cool.
That's exactly right. You know, I mean, I didn't plan on doing it that way, but I got it done, and you got to get that first deal. Once you get that first deal, the other ones start showing up, you know. And now with the Rockefeller, it's not the most recent purchase. I'm closing 2 deals this week. It's going to be about 300 units I'm closing this week. But it's the more deals you close, the more deals start showing up in your pipeline because people know that you can perform. Because like I said before, the lack of integrity among buyers is rampant out there. There's a lot of people that talk a big game out there, you know. So if you're going to be in this business, you have to be committed to doing it. And I can say, you know what, maybe people, I'll tell you right now, man. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and they might say I cuss a lot. They might say I might be, you know, they might say a lot of things about me. But one thing that they won't say about me is that one thing they will say about me is that I always close a deal, no matter what. It always gets done, right? They can say a lot of things about me, but the deal always gets closed, and that's important. That's important.
Yeah, because it's a small world, right? The real estate world, right? You know, you want that reputation of being a closer. If not, why would people deal with you, right? If you have a reputation of not being a closer, brokers don't want to use you. They have their own reputations to protect and sellers to work with, you know. So I think that's very important. Let's talk about the Rockefeller, just in case we run out of time. This is just such a fascinating deal. So name itself, as we said, right? If nothing else, makes it a fascinating deal. The Rockefeller Center in Cleveland, right? Tell us all about this deal.
Well, man, I'll tell you. First thing, This deal, it's an old building. It was built in 1901, and it was acquired by the last owner. God, I think like 50 years ago or some long time ago. And over the past 25 years, this is what a broker told me. Okay, over the past 25 years, over 100 different people and parties have tried to buy this property, and no one can pull it off. They couldn't do it, either because the seller didn't want to sell for whatever reason. Maybe the number wasn't high enough. I don't know. Maybe it was they couldn't perform, right? And that's what happened to the last guy. He couldn't perform, couldn't close a deal, right? This is during the heyday before all this Corona stuff. A variety of different reasons, right? And it's funny, when I heard about this deal, a friend of mine told me about it, and I decided to go drive by and take a look at it, right? So my business partner, he's in town, so we're driving, and we're driving up the street, and we see the property, and it's it's a skyscraper, right? So I had no idea what I was looking for at the time, and I see it, and I'm like, oh my God, I need that building in my life. That's the first thing I said. And as we're driving, the car is moving. He's jumping out of the car to take pictures of it. And there's already someone that was trying to bid for the property. We outbid them. They committed to doing a deal with us, and then they pulled it from us and gave it to them. So it was like, oh, we lost it. At first we thought we lost it, but then they couldn't perform, and we got the deal back. And we knew that Sherwin-Williams is moving right next door. Like there's a giant parking lot that they just committed. They just paid $42 million for it, and we're right next door to it. And our vision was to take this old, beautiful building with great architecture and turn it into multifamily, like a mixed use, like office, multifamily, and some retail on the first level. And we were able to take it down. Like I said before, I alluded to this before. I mean, that was a tough deal, man. Trying to take down a deal of this size with the complexities that it has, it's hard enough, like under normal circumstances. With COVID, it was, I think for other people, it would have been nearly impossible. I mean, it was a very, very hard deal, but we pulled it off. We've raised all the money for it. We were able to get the financing for it. And I mean, at one point, we were going to lose the deal, at one point, and we already had $250,000 that was about to go hard. Okay. It was about to go hard, and we were already in for $1 million of soft costs, and we were at risk of losing because we're running out of time, out of due diligence time. And the lenders just walked out on us because of COVID. So what am I going to do? I go back to the sellers and I said, listen, I don't have the financing yet. I'm going to get the financing set up. Here's what I'm going to do. That 250, I'm going to make it hard right now. And I'm going to put up another 250. I'm going to wire it directly to you guys right now. And we're going to close this thing by September the 30th. I mean, that takes some guts to put up $500,000 hard, and you still don't have a lender yet during COVID. It's either you're incredibly dumb or you're very sure of what you're going to do, right? And I was sure that I was going to take this deal down, so, and that's exactly what we did, man. I mean, it was, like I said, it was tough, but man, there's a huge learning experience, and just, it was a lot of fun though. Not every day was a lot of fun, but it's still a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's so cool. What was the purchase price on that?
So this one was 13.3 million, right? Just to acquire the asset. We're going to put about 86 or 80, it's between 80 to $86 million of renovation is going to go into this property. So by the time we're done with this thing, it'll probably be worth close to 110 million. So it's going to be a formidable asset. It's going to be a Class A asset, 436 units. Like I said, 2 floors of office, like a food hall concept on the first floor. It's going to be right next door to the Sherwin-Williams headquarters that they're building. And that alone is going to bring like 10,000 new jobs to the area. So it's going to be remarkable, man. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Yeah.
So $87 million worth of renovations. So I'm guessing you guys got a renovation loan from that. You guys didn't raise 87 million, I'm guessing.
No. You don't, a deal like this, you don't do that. I think part of it is timing. Like I said before, so many people have tried to chase this building down and they couldn't pull it off. And I think that aside from, the cast of characters, so to speak, that could be somewhat difficult to work with, and which is, again, you really have to have an ability to negotiate with some very tough personalities to work on those tough deals. There's also some of the tax cuts and some of the other incentives that are currently in place today, like historical tax credits, for instance, right? There's state historical tax credits, federal historical tax credits, there's TIFs, there's opportunity zone, there's all these different things that all come into play that make this asset spectacular. It is the only way that you can make the deal work, right? If you were to buy this deal without all that stuff and expect to renovate it, it would be, I don't know if it'd be possible to do. I don't know if it'd be worth it. You kind of have to have those incentives to make it financially viable for you to offer an investor an incentive to invest with you in a deal like this. You have to have all that. And I think it's part of the whole economic plan that the current president put into play that really helped fuel some of that, not only for us, but for many other cities around the United States.
Yeah, that's incredible. 87 million renovation budget. That's just amazing.
It's crazy.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. The $13 million purchase price is enough by itself, but then an $87 million renovation budget is just unbelievable. How much of that did you guys have to finance, and what did you have to come up with? I'm just interested in the numbers. I'm sure people are, just kind of how it worked and what kind of things, what kind of financing did you get, and how much did you have to raise?
Yeah, sure. So, well, the funny thing is that because we're relying on a lot of those tax incentives, that kind of thing. I guess I'm going to say that I'm not going to say they're like freebies or giveaways or anything else like that, but they're kind of like guaranteed, right? So the amount of money to bring to the table it's not heavy, right? You're talking like $15 million, which is still a lot of money, I know. But compared to your typical loan that you're doing, like especially on new construction, might be like a 65% LTV, a 65% loan to value. This is not like that at all, right? And that's only because of those tax incentives that come into play a deal like this, right? It's the only reason, like I said, that's the only reason why it works, So, but I mean, for investors that throw down on a deal like this, it's a boom. It's great, super.
How do you pitch? Because I'm guessing is it empty currently? Is it throwing off any cash flow right now, or is it going?
Yeah. Right now there's cash flow there, and it's it's already it's partially occupied. So I can't get into any details because technically the fund is still open.
Okay.
So I can't get into details, but I mean, if someone's interested in reaching out to talk to me about it, yeah, I mean, I can have one-on-one conversations once I qualify them, but I got to be careful. I don't want to, like I said, remember I said, there's two people. This is the one that's most dangerous.
Yeah,
SEC.
You don't want to mess with them. Oh, my bad.
I don't want to mess with them.
I didn't realize that. My bad. Well,
it's all right.
What a phenomenally cool project.
Yeah. No, but as you can see, I mean, I love talking about that stuff. That's the thing, man. I mean, it is a spectacular project, not only because of what it is and where it is, and in relation to the opportunity that it presents because of its location and what Sherwin-Williams and the other businesses in downtown Cleveland are bringing, but it's also the historical aspect of being part of the history of the richest man on the planet ever, right? Bar none. Rockefeller was the richest man on the planet in modern history anyway, right? To this very day. And to have your name associated with someone like that is phenomenal, man. I mean, when you think about it, even that's how our partners feel about it. It's great. It really is.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. Thanks for sharing the cool story. Yeah. As this show is called Wrestling with Real Estate, right? I try and incorporate some wrestling themed real estate questions on this show. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you're ready. You seem like the type of guy that was born ready. So I'm sure this will be.
I was born ready for sure. Yeah.
What would your wrestling name be? If you had to come up with a wrestling name, what would you?
I'd say Bone Crusher.
Okay, Bone Crusher.
No reason.
Okay, hey, sounds good. I like it. Bone Crusher. Every
it's either that or the Mountain. I wasn't sure.
Oh, both is good. I like Bone Crusher. I like Bone Crusher, I think. Let's go with Bone Crusher. Every wrestler has a signature or special move. What is your special move in real estate? So what is your strength, basically?
Yeah, I would say at this point, diligence and deal sourcing. It's really two things. I don't mean diligence, just not due diligence, but diligence as far as like not giving up when a deal is going south. Try to rescue the deal and stay on top of things. That integrity thing I mentioned before is huge. You got to maintain that integrity, and that has saved me. So it's saved me numerous times on deals, and I think it's also the reason why we're able to source more deals, and get them and really get them closed. That's the reason.
Yeah, cool. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate investing career?
And I'm assuming you mean like something bad has happened, right?
Yeah.
So, I've been lucky that the deals have not I've only had like one deal that didn't perform as well as I wanted it to. It's a very early deal, and this whole business is built with partnerships, right? You have to partner with good, strong people always. And this partner that I partnered up with was he was a liar and a fool and an idiot. And he presented himself as one way, but once the papers were signed, he disappeared. And now I'm left running the asset by myself. So I wouldn't say it's a body slam in the sense that, the asset failed or caught fired and whatever. Not that. It's because this guy said he was going to do stuff, said he was going to back me up, and just left me in the cold. So if there's anything to learn from that experience, it's going to be to pick your partners very wisely, right? Don't just partner with anybody. Vet them out. And unfortunately, only time will tell you what they're like, right? So spend a little bit of time with them. If you set a time for 4:00 to meet at the cafe to discuss an offering memorandum, and the person doesn't show up till 4:30, it shows you that they have a disconnect with time and they have lack of respect for your time. Those are grounds to get rid of them and go to another partner. It seems cold, seems very, very like decisive, but again, this business is cutthroat. And if you become a partner with the wrong person, they can really take you down. And I mean, they didn't take me down, but if I would have known that, if I didn't realize till later, but I already committed to doing the deal. So that's why I did it. But yeah, that's probably the biggest body slam I had, is just picking the wrong partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope, getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it, and how did you overcome it? So was there a moment you were afraid to take action and move forward?
I would say it's that example I gave you. I mean, that was pretty scary at first. There's that one, which I've already told the story. It's like, send over the purchase agreement. I'm going to sign it right now. It's like, I must be out of my mind. But you know what though, man, I'll tell you, there's also the very first house that I bought. So when this friend of mine told me to go buy a house, he connected me with this broker, and I bought this first house on Timothy Avenue in Virginia Beach, right? And I didn't know what to do. I bought the house. Great. I bought the house. What do you do when you buy a house? Hell, I don't know. I guess I go to the house. I don't know. I never did this before. So I go to the house, And then it's a little, you know, it was a 2-bedroom. They converted it to a 3-bedroom. It's one of these flippers that bought this house and turned the attic into another bedroom, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, here I am in the living room, and I was scared out of my mind. I mean, we're talking about $100,000 house here, right? I was like, oh my God, what did I just do to myself? What did I just do? I'm looking out the window. What it's 6 o'clock in the evening. Oh my God. I still remember all this. This is almost 20 years ago. I still remember this. And I'm like, I must be crazy. What the hell am I doing? You know, that kind of thing. Right. And then I find a renter, and they started renting. And then I get a check in the mail, and it shows up, and it's real money, and they're paying me. I'm like, holy crap, this actually works. They give me money. Unbelievable. It's like that when you first realize it, it's kind of like, you know, it doesn't really cross your mind. You know, it's funny how that works, man. I mean, because it was my very first, like, even though I had that condo and I was renting it out, I guess it didn't really faze me, because I kind of like fell into it by mistake, you know, but this was one I did on purpose. So it was like, wow. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, it's crazy to think that $100,000 house scared you, and then,
right.
And then here you are doing $100 million deals. You know, it's crazy to think how you can grow, but that's so cool to kind of see what can be possible. So
yeah.
Well, Agostino, thank you so much for being here today, man. It's just some phenomenal stuff that you shared. You know, from the mindset stuff to doing a crazy $100 million Rockefeller property, which is just amazing and such a cool story. Before we go though, where can people get a hold of you so they can find out more about what you're doing and what you're up to?
Bulletproofcashflow.com is probably the best way to get a hold of me. You know, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. You know, send me a message, say hi. Always looking to hear from people. So yeah, say hi, definitely.
And then what's the name of your podcast?
Bulletproof Cashflow. Yeah, check us out. Like I said before, we talk about mindset, we talk about sales and marketing, we talk about real estate. So it's not just multifamily. We talk all different kinds of real estate. But yeah, definitely, yeah, check it out. Tell me if you like it. If you like it, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, subscribe, give it a thumbs down. Just subscribe.
That's amazing. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything today, man. It's been a really cool interview. I really enjoyed it.
You bet, man. Good talking to you.